Hey, everybody.
Hey, evening.
Hey, Tiana here. My laptop seems to have decided that now is a good time to restart, so I'll be on my computer soon, but for right now, I'm on my phone.
Okay, no problem. So I don't think we can start until we have a quorum, right?
You can call the meeting to order, but we just can't take a vote.
And we're
Okay.
not going to have, so yeah, it's all about the voting.
Okay. So I'll call the meeting to order, 7 o'clock. Do you have any public participation?
I just had a couple of questions.
Can you first identify your name and address, please?
Judy Green, 14 Maple Ave. I noticed on the last meeting, there was a mention under land use of a bylaw. Can you tell me what that bylaw is about? A proposed bylaw for the next town meeting?
Not sure what you're referring to.
It was on the spreadsheet that was being reviewed.
Oh, maybe you're referring to the subcommittee that we're forming.
Yeah, but there was a notation of a bylaw.
There's discussion about the town's own land that they, and rules that they are talking about formalizing how it's used. Maybe what you're referring to.
Yeah, I'm looking at this spread. I think when we were discussing that is potentially the subcommittee would bring a new bylaw to the town meeting based on what comes out of that subcommittee. Is that?
Yeah. So we're starting subcommittees and one of them is on land protection. And I think
Right,
one of the roles that we would play as EC would be to bring bylaws to town meetings. So that's just an example of what that subcommittee could be working on.
so there's no specific bylaw? that's
No.
being discussed. Oh, okay.
No.
And I had a question about the VOC as well. I know, I think you had made comment previously about sustainable building materials being used. Was anything discussed about sustainable land use, specifically in regards to the proposed road that's going to go through the forest?
So I attended a public meeting in the spring where residents did ask questions about the road and land protection. They noted that they have asked the state to look into the project having to go through a review process related to the driveway. And it was mentioned, there was an attorney representing the Friends of Breakheart Forest, I think they call themselves. And then it's been silence. So I don't know more about their request for the state to have
Yeah.
them look into it. Their Facebook page is semi-private, so I can't like see if there's, discussion about them in relation to whatever that request is. And there's been no public meetings of the building committee since then.
Yeah, I think that was about the Endangered Species Act, because there were some endangered species out there.
Yeah, that may have
but-
been the tool they were using to ask the questions. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah, so
Right.
that's the limit to my knowledge.
Okay.
But when I have reached out to the building committee representatives to find out when's the next public meeting, or if the project's even moving ahead, and they said, oh no, there'll be a meeting in August. So the project's proceeding, but I don't know the impact of whatever that request is.
Okay, but this committee hasn't commented on sustainable land use.
Correct.
Okay, will there be comments issued about that project, or is that something you even dip into?
We, as a committee, we've not talked about having a position individually. People
Okay,
may have, but not as a committee.
okay,
Yeah, for the VOC in the high school, we've been more focused on energy usage and renewable energy and that type of thing. We haven't really delved into the land use piece.
okay. Will that be explored more as the projects move along? Because, I mean, it's proximate to an area of environmental critical concern. It's a critical core habitat. So it's a very consequential area for both schools, but especially for the VOC with that access road that's going to plow right through that forest. I mean, that's going to be an enormous impact.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something the land use committee can look into. Sean, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, no, certainly be happy to look into it. It was not something that we've identified right now as a priority area, but just I think because we hadn't discussed that much. And also we'll have a public notice of when we're meeting as a subcommittee. So if you wanted to bring more on that to us or participate in that, that'd be something you'd be welcome to do. So far we've been a little behind, but we've been talking on prioritizing recreational land use, public education, as well as trying to give sustainability input into the Wakefield 2030, the Vision 2030 process. So,
Right.
But we hadn't talked about it with the school, but we
Okay.
absolutely should.
Are you a neighbor of the school?
No, I work for the Conservation Commission and I'm on the. Open
Oh,
Space
right.
Committee as well.
Their name sounded familiar and I didn't put it together. Okay.
So
So
they've
is
been
the
very-
Conservation Commission doing any work on this subject?
They have been before the commission for delineation, and they've done some test pits. But they haven't submitted a notice of intent. We've heard that it's going to be coming soon. That's why I was curious. Because I think it's one of those projects that seems to be, maybe because it's so large, it's kind of gone under the radar. But I think once they start clearing that area, it's going to be devastating for a huge amount of people. And just for the environment alone.
Judy, could you keep us in the loop about, because the Voc project has been, the communication has been great. And so you may learn this stuff before we can, because they aren't publicly keeping us up to date.
Right.
So, I do get the Concom agendas, but I don't always have a chance to look at them. So when you learn that
Yeah,
they're
no,
coming,
absolutely.
whether as a committee
out.
representative or just as an individual, I'd like to learn more exactly what they're doing.
Right. No, that's fine. And if I can just give an update on the open space plan, just a quick.
Yeah.
We haven't actually rolled out with the consultants yet with vacations. We've been trying to, get the planning underway. But I've been working with the conservation agent, Rebecca Davis, and we've put together a broad number of town-owned parcels that we're going to put the plans together and present them to town council for them to vote on, to be accepted under the care and custody, mainly of the Conservation Commission. So we're looking to create some pocket parks, some rain gardens, maybe some demonstration garden areas, like a beautification area of all these towns, because there are a lot of, along the Mill River, in Greenwood, the town forest, the so-called town forest, there are plenty of trails. So just kind of heightening the awareness of that with some signage and just better maintenance of these areas so that they're better functioning overall.
Sounds
So that's
great.
in the works.
Yeah, so Sean, I think Judy would definitely be a person. I think we already put on our spreadsheet that Conservation Committee would be someone that you would be liaisoning with and working with. So.
Can I just make one clarification? It's a commission, not a committee. They were a committee that were an advisory role to the Board of Selectmen, but they're now an official commission. So they actually administer the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
Ah.
Sorry about that.
Sorry,
that's
and I'm used to them just being called Concom. So whether
Right,
it's a shorthand, okay.
No, understood.
Robin,
So-
question for you. In a subcommittee, and I don't remember, can members of the public be participants of a subcommittee?
Julie said they could be if it was a working group,
Okay, so
but subcommittees can't. However, you can have others, like public participation doesn't have to come in pockets. You can have it as open as much as you want. So the chair of the subcommittee could run the meeting with public in the discussion, but I don't think they could be members of it.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
So therefore they can't vote, I think is the only.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking voting, but I was just, if Judy wanted to, participate in those from our perspective,
Well-
I'm sure we would. Well, and I'm speaking for Sean. I'm sure you guys would welcome her.
Yeah, Judy,
group.
we're aiming for like Wednesdays, like the second Wednesday of the month or something, to meet at the library. So if that is the time when you think you can join us,
That should be fine.
yeah, and then I'm just curious, you're talking about the Conservation Commission being a commission, not being a committee anymore in the role. Like, I'm wondering if at the next one of these meetings, if it would be worthwhile to have 5 minutes on the agenda, Judy, if you'd be willing to come back and maybe formally describe the role of the Conservation Commission, because I think that's probably something we'd all be well served by educating ourselves more on that.
Sure.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I'm assuming from what you were saying that a commission has some delegated regulatory authorities as well, and that's what distinguishes it, and that's so.
Yes, they were a committee, so they were an advisory role to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen actually conducted the voting on all the decisions. So now they're an actual full-fledged commission. So they actually administer the state-driven Wetlands Protection Act. And it was a hard-fought battle to get that in Wakefield. It failed the town meeting several times to get them indoctrinated as a full commission. So it was really a big, big feather in their cap to get it done. But times are changing. People have different views, I hope, on conservation now. maybe some of this beautification will help.
So when is the beautification work planning to be done?
The title searches have to be conducted on most of the parcels because they're tax title. So that will have to take place first, and then it can get transferred to the care of the commission. And then we can start with that. But it's kind of the segue into the open space plan. We figured it would align pretty well with that. And especially the town forest, that's been talked about for decades, putting that in some kind of protection. Because right now there's nothing. And with development interests heightening, there's always, there's always that lot that everyone looks at thinking nothing can be done there. And then all of a sudden it's linked to something that can be a bigger project. And I think with just in terms of land sustainability, the drought, the larger storms, it's just increasingly obvious that we need more open space, more viable open space, healthy wetlands. And so we're hoping that protecting them this way, it'll give us some more resilience from the larger storms and protection from drought, having areas where water can recharge. So there is water. I was surprised. People have asked about a watering ban in Wakefield, and we're surprised that there wasn't one, on sprinklers. And I would like to see some kind of statement from the town requesting that people scale back on their watering, things like that. Maybe the town scaling back on their sprinkler use as an example for the town.
Maybe not sprinkler at noon when it's 90 degrees out.
Right.
Because I saw that.
Right. Yeah.
Or no automatic sprinklers?
Right.
Who would make that call? Like, would it be Steve Mayo, or who would?
I think it would be Steve Mayo,
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there needs to be a flat out ban. I know some towns that aren't on wells have instituted bans, but I think just a public face to the fact that we need, it isn't an unlimited resource.
Yeah, statement, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I think helping to get people on board with that would be nice.
Yeah. Appreciate you joining and bringing up those topics. And we'll definitely look forward to working with you in the future. And if you're available to come to our next meeting, and we'll put you on the agenda to talk about Conservation Commission.
Okay. Is it the second week in September?
Yeah, so we meet on the second Thursday of every month. So it would be the 8th.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think anybody else is on for public participation. So we don't have any minutes to approve from last meeting. Hopefully we can get the July meeting minutes out along with this meeting's minutes out, so we can approve both for next meeting.
Point of procedure, is there any way for us to do that sort of thing over email if it has to be a in person in a meeting? But okay, I wasn't sure if we could, if the minutes were sent, that folks could individually vote electronically or something like that.
No, just a reminder, we're only able to work electronically over hybrid because of a extension of a temporary executive order. So ordinarily the vote has to be in person.
Okay.
Sorry.
So hopefully you guys can see the agenda. So next item is the ESE procedures for the volunteers. And this is the update that Dan sent today.
Can you put that up, Melissa? We see the agenda.
Oh, sorry. Can change that. See it now?
Yes, thank you.
So the changes that he made are in red, and it's just adding volunteers to the membership composition and just adding them to the residency requirement stipulation. So does anybody have any comments or anything on these changes? Otherwise, we can vote on this amendment or this edit.
I have
So-
a question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Why did they need to be Wakefield residents to be volunteer?
That was my question too.
Okay. I'd like to hear
I'm
people's
particularly
thoughts.
thinking, I mean, you know, I work at a university. I was thinking that this would cut out acknowledging if we engage university students in particular, who might have some motivation to be involved in things. We talked about that possibly was in school initiatives or things. I assume they could still lend a hand, but then they'd be excluded from being a volunteer under this. So I didn't know if that was necessary and intentional or.
Dan, do you have any reason for that?
No, actually, I just put it in because in a sense, I wanted everybody to either say yay and nay on that. And, you know, I'm keeping this thing really simple at this point in time, and it would be easy just to remove that. From a standpoint of management, you know, you know, who could be volunteered, really, it doesn't make any difference.
Okay. Sounds
I
like
could also imagine folks who work in Wakefield might be interested, in addition to the, you know, university students or things like that. So I'd be in favor of removing that restriction.
Yeah, or family members, you know, who
Sure.
grew up in Wakefield and live nearby and that type of thing and might want to.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll change it to all appointed members. Does that make sense? Since we have all the appointments are
No, because
students have to
why?
be,
So why are you adding appointed?
because it says all members and we're having the membership composition
Oh.
include volunteers here. So since we have all the listed appointments up here, I was just thinking if we specify that it's only appointed members that need to have a residency. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I guess my comment is that if we vote to accept this, that it be under the condition that it gets reviewed by the town attorney to make sure that we didn't do something that we weren't allowed to do. So it's conditional on his review of it.
Oh, okay. So I need to send this to him. Is that what
That's my suggestion, is that, you know, so if the committee agrees with it, that we're saying that it shouldn't be implemented without his just some double checking things.
Okay. So
Oh.
we can vote on the change and then send it to him, and if he approves, then it's official.
Yeah, so I guess that would be my motion, is to accept it as edited with the condition that it gets you know, reviewed by the town attorney, counselor. So that's, so I made a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Who's that? Tatiana?
Oh, Tiana.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will be voting on the changes that are made here as long as it's approved by the town legal council. Okay. Dan,
Yes,
Tom,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes,
Robin,
Yes.
Deanna,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay.
We have Anne.
Oh, Anne, sorry.
Answer yes, you can either see or hear me tonight, so I voted hear me, not see me.
Do you see what we're showing here?
Yes,
Are you in approval?
yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so I will send this to Tom Mullen.
There weren't any other edits down below where we're looking at, right? I didn't think so. I had scrolled through earlier, but just
Yeah,
wanted
no,
to check
there's
that I
no
hadn't missed
spells.
anything.
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Probably would have been something to clarify before we voted. Occurred to me now as we were moving on.
Okay. So next item is, I brought this item back onto the agenda to talk about the electric charging and solar readiness bylaws. And I already talked to Tom and Julie about it. Just want to get an understanding of if it's possible to move them forward to a town meeting coming up. What are the obstacles, considering that the state building code is not going to be as favorable to having the requirement to install solar and electric charging as it stands now.
So Melissa, I just wanted to make a clarification. If we pass the optimized or the specialized opt-in code, it will require, if a building chooses fossil fuel as a path, they will be required to install solar. And it ups the amount of electrical vehicle charging and spots in both residential and commercial. So the way that the STRA code is written, if a building, like I said, if it chooses a fossil fuel path, they will be required to install PV. If they choose an all electric route, they have to, the code says PV EV ready, so that it is in a ready state, but not forcing it on an all electric choice for heating and cooling.
So the bylaws, the bylaw language you're saying is the same as the new building code language?
No, we were, let's see here, if I remember correctly. We were requiring, we were not making a specification in our own bylaw on a fuel type. It was, you know, if new construction, and we were breaking out in terms of square footage or units to determine, you know, kind of PV ready or EV, or sorry, or installed in the language that we had that we were editing. One of the like I said, one of the challenges that the roadblock that we had hit was that town council legal, so Tom Mullins was having issues on where we could insert this into bylaws to make this enforceable, because we have to be careful around, we can't supersede building code. So there was And then, we were starting to, look at how that could work. And then the state announced the new path, the new stretch code and the opt-in code. So they started working on that. So we kind of hit pause there, and then was waiting for those to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're, have the strongest policy as far as electric charging and solar goes. If the state's policy is not up to par, then I feel like we can, do our own thing. And since, we were taking the bylaw language from other towns anyways, and it was kind of cookie cutter that way, then.
So it was and it wasn't. So the way we don't, where at least the EV policy we took from Boston, I think it was, they called it like something 70B. We don't have any sort of framework in town that Boston was leveraging to enact and kick the EV into play when developments went in front of that board or triggered that. So we were struggling with the triggering mechanisms. So we have the intent on what we want to do. It was the legal stumbling block was around how to trigger it and how to enforce it and how to make it work within our, the building codes and not step onto that. But we didn't really get very far into that work because of the new stretch code announcement.
So is it worth kind of doing a comparison of the, what was in those bylaws? I don't know if you've done this or not, compared to the stretch code. Current language in the stretch code that I thought that the new language that was recently came out was not as strong as previously thought.
I have not, done that comparison yet. I'm happy to look at that and sit down with folks and see where that is. Or some. So
Tom, just like, I don't know, an hour or two before our last meeting, I had received a summary of the new one, and so I had tried to read it in some at the same time. So it's from DOER. So if you haven't received their summary of the latest, I'm happy to share with you.
Yeah, can you do that? It did not come in my email box.
No, I didn't email it. I verbally shared it with folks.
Okay.
So I can share that with you because you may be able to translate it better than I can to know if how it compares to what we were talking in town.
Yep.
So I'll find that and share that with you.
Would you
So
mind?
our stretch code that we had, the draft that we had done back in March, actually we edited as a committee from PV. We were only targeting buildings that were 10,000 square feet or 10 units or more to be solar installed.
Okay.
Whereas the opt-in code, the last I had looked at it was if a fossil fuel was chosen, it was forced. It didn't matter what size the building, what the building was, as long as it met solar requirement. It required them to be PV installed at time of construction, and that crossed both residential and commercial buildings.
Yeah, I'm not sure like what the difference is between the March version and the most current version, so.
Well, so what I was referring to the March version was our was our version, the one that we were proposing for the town bylaw. The straw code that I reviewed from the Department of Energy was, I forget when that was when did I do that? In June. So whatever their latest version was.
Is that the version you were talking about, Robin?
That was the one I presented to this body.
Right, no, I received something that had newer information that they had taken.
Here to see summary document.
Tom, do you want to send to your gas and light email?
Either one is fine.
Okay.
So yeah, if it's possible to do that comparison between the latest state language and the bylaws that you were working on, I think that would be helpful. Just to make sure we're not missing anything, we're not, missing an opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just quickly looking here. So in the draft code that was just released, right now, the base energy code, which is regardless, like whether you're using, that's just base electrical code, will require 1 space per home, or a minimum of 10% of spaces in new multifamily lots to be EV ready. And then if we have the stretch code is the same for 1. And so because we already have the stretch code, this will kick, once this kicks in and is approved by the Department of Energy, the multifamilies move to 20% under the stretch code. There is also a triggerment of existing homes being altered, additions and changes, so that's good. So any addition over 1,000 square feet triggers the HERS rating and must follow the base energy code, which is something that we were not targeting under our PV EV ready codes were only for new construction. I'm just trying to see if they changed any of the solar stuff. But yeah, I can take a look at the, kind of do a comparison of what is currently being proposed, what we were kind of proposing in our EV PV bylaws, and then kind of do a compare and contrast.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Tom, could you clarify what you said about we can't supersede the building code?
I don't have clarification. So when I submitted kind of our drafts for PV EV, Julie did this with the town lawyer. So Tom Mullen, like he's also known as town council. So we put the codes and it came back with saying that there are legal issues in getting these implemented as bylaws, and was, that we were potentially stepping on building codes and cannot do that legally. That was what was explained to me. Didn't really get dug in on that because right around that time, the state released their new stretch codes. Or proposals for energy stretch codes. So we kind of pivoted there. The thought process is, we're already have adopted the stretch code, so any new changes will automatically get put into force. And then once it's finalized in November, December, there's a specialized opt-in code that allows municipalities to reach the Climate Act goals for 2050. And that's really the state's way of giving us a path to achieve those goals. So the earliest we could vote on those would be town meeting of the spring. So my intention is to have that brought forward for the spring town meeting. We vote on that, and then potentially, my thought process personally is once those are in, that we could potentially build upon those if we wanted to push it further than what the state codes are, in the opt-in.
And I'll just add that I don't fully understand it, but communities like Brookline, Lexington, and a few others, recently tried to have a moratorium on all fossil fuels in their buildings. And the state said, no, as a municipality, that's too far. You can't do that. So that maybe what Attorney Mullen was implying, that we were in that same area of trying to push it too far. In case you didn't hear, the state climate action just actually allowed pilot programs, 10 of them, to actually go further. And so that is the opportunity for Brookline to get what they were asking for previously.
Correct. Yeah, and we currently have the multifamily moratorium in place to protect the gas supply. But even we, as the Gas and Light Commission, talked about potentially expanding that moratorium. But we might actually have the opposite effect, because while we can have a moratorium, that still does not prevent a builder from installing a different fossil fuel than natural gas, which on the scale we wouldn't want to do that or have that done. So by having this stuff in code, like the stretch code and the opt-in codes, that's kind of dictates the pathways that a builder can go and has teeth, right? Whereas we can just say, there's a moratorium in place, but we can't go in as Gas and Light and say you can't install oil. It's outside of that realm.
So the moratorium is only on new multifamily?
Correct.
Okay, not single family, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And we've had a lot of success. There's been a lot of success with that. So most of obviously all of the new buildings, and we define multifamily is more than one. So anything that is 2 or more, has to is ineligible for natural gas at this time.
And new means like brand new, like it doesn't include like that big renovation at the mill building, right?
Correct. While we do encourage them to go electrify as well.
I know it's outside of the scope immediately of bylaws, but does anyone know what, if anything, is in the proposal for the housing development by the lake in terms of electric charging stations and solar readiness?
So I know that they will be, for heating and cooling will be electric. Their proposal had, I forget if it was one or they were putting in EV 1 or 2 level 3s and some level 2s. It was unclear around solar for them. I don't have a detail on that.
So just a handful of stations they were putting in, or per unit?
So it was a handful of, so the level 3s are the DC fast. So those are the fast chargers. I don't remember offhand. I'm not looking at it, what they were saying for the level 2s. But under, when the stretch code passes, right now, the way, I'm looking at, if it stays, 20% of their parking spots would need to be either installed or PV ready. And the optimized code, the specialized code, forces them, I forget, it actually forces some of the spots to be installed.
Mm-hmm.
Just curious, since Tom Mullen seems to think that the bylaws are not up to par as far as the legal restrictions, how other towns could, like Boston and I think it was Watertown, we got those from, how they go forward.
Let me bring up the Boston.
Like, do we have different rules than Boston or Watertown that restrict us?
So, yeah, let's see. Boston, I forget. Let me go look at the Boston. So Boston was triggered. This was triggered under. Where was it? Their Article 80 of Boston Planning and Development Agency Board. Yeah, so if all new development projects that require Boston Transportation Department TAPA approval and or the Article 80 large project review is what they were using to trigger this.
And we had different triggers.
Yeah, Article 80 is, you know, something very specific to Boston.
Boston has two articles. Well, they have lots of articles, but Article 80 is a size trigger that changes the entire pathway on how it gets permitted and has criterias that are extremely extensive on traffic and building height and what committees you go through. They also have an Article 37 that, you know, says of buildings of certain size have to go through a sustainability review and process that's a rigorousness that doesn't seem to exist in smaller communities.
Okay, well, I think that
Article 80 is triggered at a building that is at least 50,000 square feet of gross floor area.
okay. So yeah, Tom, if you could do that comparison, I think that would be helpful, just so we can kind of put that to rest if one way or the other.
Absolutely, yeah, no, certainly can do that. I'll take that as a task and bring that to email it to you, and then if you want to disseminate it once, you know, to the rest of the committee.
Okay.
Can I ask one more clarifying question? The stretch code changes, the town wouldn't vote on that. That would just happen by the building codes being updated, and that's sort of automatic once those updates go through. And then the opt-in piece, town by town, needs to be voted on. So that's that particular piece of it is what we would bring theoretically to a town meeting in the spring.
Correct. Yep. The way, so there's three parts. There's the base electrical code. That base code, any updates, once that's ratified, those updates apply to any building permit that is pulled after the ratification. Same with the stretch code, because we've already implemented the stretch code. Part of the stretch code, the language is any updates when it's ratified, automatically, you know, again, it's when time of permit holds. And then the opt-in would be another town meeting vote to opt in into that, you know, third set of code, which makes the stretch code even more stretchier.
Yeah, got it.
Simple terms.
Thank
But
you.
really was the Climate Act directed the Department of Energy to put code in place for towns and cities to adopt, to give them that pathway forward to meet the Climate Act goals, is really the premise of the opt-in code.
Got it. Thank you.
So we would bring the opt-in code vote to spring 2020.
Unless the Department of Energy gets it out before the deadline for warrants for fall, but their timeline has
I
November.
don't think that's gonna happen.
So I don't think
They
that's
have
gonna,
like a month, right?
like I said, their timeline right now is saying that they'll have it ready for November, December. So
Yeah.
it's past our time meeting.
They never move faster. You can only ensure that they will move slower.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, well, thanks, Tom.
No problem. I just need to step away for one moment, so I'll be right back.
Okay. So next item is to review the subcommittees. Bring up that spreadsheet. So I heard back from Tiana and Sean and Chris, who's not able to make today's meeting. And Dan, did you have any, anything for the volunteer coordination committee as far as outcomes or meeting schedule that you want me to add?
So I'm waiting for, I've been waiting for the approval, and now I'm waiting for the attorney and what his input is and stuff like that. Once I get that, then that triggers a lot of different things that I'm going to be doing at that point in time. So once we get the attorney approval, then I'll move ahead on what the desired outcomes are and meeting schedules, as well as how we go about soliciting and or accepting volunteers. But I thought that it would be best before we get all input before I went ahead with that.
Okay, sounds good. Other ones, oh, Robin, building efficiency committee. Do you have any desired outcomes or meeting schedule I can add here? Or you want to get back to me?
Well, I'm a committee of one, so that makes it a little hard to keep me on
Well,
task.
we
I'm
may
not
have
accountable to anyone other than
volunteers.
myself. What's that?
Well, we may have volunteers from.
Yes, exactly. So I don't, I don't know if I should establish a schedule without wanting to leave things open to, whoever, workarounds, whoever's comes forth. So,
As far as outcomes, anything you want me to put here? Just so it's kind of more clear on what the goals are for this subcommittee.
well, without, vetting it through other people, I think that, the all electric, the fossil fuel free is a advocacy goal that we have. And that the highest efficiency in terms of building design envelope and stuff is kind of the two outcomes I like to see of new construction, but then also start to advocate for renovation of existing.
Okay, so. Okay, great.
And even if people aren't on the committee, if you guys have anything to add that you'd like to make sure that we're advocating for, please speak up now or in the future as things come into your thoughts.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is like the high school and the Voc are like, the two biggest buildings projects in town. So advocating as much as possible for building efficiency standards there.
And well, and I actually have my eye on, there's future, just, there's talking about, the needs of the DPW. And so just making sure that when they start the conversations that they think of kind of all the needs, instead of just programmatic of a goal.
DPW as far as what?
So the DPW building comes up regularly in town meeting on repairs, but also looking potentially a replacement. So,
Okay.
so just when the kind of a due diligence on capital planning, when someone's having the initial conversations, they don't just think about, how many vehicles it needs to store, is like, well, what is its energy usage and, life cycle? Is it better to make some larger work in order to have better outcomes long term?
And just along that path, even the smaller, capital projects as, planned maintenance, equipment replacement, when equipment starts to get to, its end of useful life and needs to be replaced. Case in point, small, like I saw it on some of the green communities, some of the buildings, water heating needs to be replaced in the near future. So they should have a prescriptive program in place of not just, all right, we're just going to replace that with what's there. What makes sense from a cost and operational standpoint. And, maybe they are doing things like heat pump water heating or solar assist water heating. Looking at those different types of systems as they, are planned in a capital replacement.
And that, where would those requirements fall under, like the utility or?
No, and it's going to be whoever is I think some of it's potentially the DPW, I think, is responsible for, like the public buildings, right? When town hall, potentially the schools, when the, school facilities like Woodville in the next couple of years is going to need, replacement of its HVAC. So, I know that there's conversations about moving that potentially to, air source heat pump versus what it's currently using. So just those conversations happening there, or advocacy, or even a prescriptive policy in place. So I think those are things that can come out of that committee.
Yeah. So, anybody interested in helping Julie? Anybody interested in joining any of these other committees? Even though you're lead for one committee doesn't mean you can't participate in other committees. So let me know if you're interested specifically with the green communities, helping Julie. Now that we're finalizing that application.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what is involved, like what she needs to do specifically.
So we'll need to do like ongoing reporting as far as where we're at with all the different requirements for green communities. So that's like an ongoing basis type of thing that would be good to have some help on, I think. That's, and maybe some grant application work as well. If there's a need for that. That was my understanding, but Julie's not here to explain it. So.
Well, and this isn't a final signups moment, right?
Right, yeah.
Folks
I just
can
wanted to go over what we have so far and, if people are interested in signing as community members for other committees. I can send this around again, and, maybe get some more information from Julie on the green communities and anything else that we need to fill in the gaps.
I didn't realize, I was looking, you put me down on the building efficiency as a, member input. Help out Robin there. And same with the greenhouse gas inventory.
Okay, cool.
I'm terrible at grant writing, so I will not volunteer for that.
I'm happy to have my name listed with the community education to help out with that, because there were some overlapping goals between that and what we're saying for land use, and also because of the school food or healthy food bit being part of that. So
Wonderful. Happy to have you, Sean. Thank you.
I'm also not volunteering for grant writing because I do too much of that already in my daytime job.
I had emailed Julie saying that I would help like copy edit, but I don't know that I want to take fresh pen to grants. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really clear what will be involved here. It's kind of TBD at this point.
I've talked to Julie about this, and I've seen other communities when they get the initial green communities seed money, that they either get, depending on the size of the town and city, either a part-time or a full-time grant writer that just goes out, and looks for grants for the town, whether it's a green communities grant or any other grant. But I thought that was a well used for the funds to go get more grants, because you do have to, every year you have to submit a green communities grant to receive additional monies.
Tom, I've had the same conversation with Julie, and her example is the woman who was hired by Melrose has doubled, tripled, whatever her salary is, she makes tenfold in terms of what she's brought into the community. So she pays for herself plus plenty. So
Yes.
We'd love to have that same success.
Yeah, it's what is that? Investing, a little bit to make a lot of returns.
Yes. She just needs to clone herself, I guess, and be available for other communities.
Okay, well, as I said, I will send this around again so people can take a look at the updates. And, committees can feel free to start meeting if they want. And I think the only stipulation is we have to post it publicly, right?
Well, post it, and then you have to post meeting minutes.
Okay.
So you both have to let people know you're having a meeting, and then you have to let people know what was said. And that can be of various lengths in terms of detail.
All right.
In terms of, in terms of the scheduling, then Melissa, were you going to pass all of this along to Sherry to ask her to kind of do it at one go, or should we be reaching out to Sherry individually, or is Sherry not the right contact for?
Yeah, I think the lead
posting the notice?
should reach out to her for coordination of the meeting schedule and the Zoom and all that.
And then do minutes, will they just get posted on the ESC page as sub items, or?
I think so. There's a email address for this town to receive all meeting minutes, and I think it's then up to the town to figure out how it gets posted.
Oh,
Unless
all right.
we have a
So-
preference, I don't know if we want to get involved with.
I would assume it would go on our website as like some,
So
Sub-
can I make a request for the minutes from this meeting? Could they include that email address and just so and also for anyone who wasn't here, since we have a few absent people, so that we all have in writing what we should do before the meeting and what we should do after the meeting. Because
Robin, are you on it? Thank you.
Do the minutes need to be approved by the subcommittee? So
It's the same rules as us.
same process. It's
Yep.
like have an August meeting, take some minutes at the September meeting, approve August's minutes and send them to the email address.
Yeah, open meeting laws has some language that the minutes of a meeting have to be public, like within a reasonable time. I think is kind of how it said. There's not like a number of days, but what I've been told is like, if you miss the next meeting, that's fine, but really you're meeting after it. So like, you know, if, like this month, I didn't have July ready. So kind of the expectation is by September, you're voting on your July if you had an August meeting.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
But I'm not an expert in the open meeting laws, but that's kind of the vibe of it, I guess.
Did somebody have a tutorial on those?
Yeah,
that was gonna
Julie's
go
supposed to
around?
send us the video.
Okay.
Ironically, that meeting is supposed to actually be published because it was it's one of the committees, and so I did go looking for it, and it had not yet been posted, the video. So
Not going by their own rules, come on.
I think that this town, when this committee was being formed, I actually did a lot of research in other towns, committees, environmental committees. I went to random town websites trying to see kind of their makeup and their agendas. And we have way more info available than other towns. So we're doing great. So let's not be too hard if we don't have one video posted.
Yeah, I can ask Julie again to send us that. It was a video you were saying?
Yeah, it's the human rights group in town. Is that a commission or committee? I'm not sure.
Human rights is a commission, Human Rights Commission.
Okay, so the commission had a presentation with Tom Mullen, and I believe it was hybrid. Therefore, there should be a video available.
Okay, the Tom Mullen open meeting video. Right,
Yes.
all right. All right, back to the agenda. So just updates on the current committees. So just a couple things on the waste reduction. Julie and I are going to be meeting with the town health inspector about enforcement of the plastics and polystyrene bylaws, because it'll fall under his responsibility. Previously it was under Steve Mayo's, but now it's under the health inspector, which is a good thing. And so we're just going to meet with the health inspector to kind of get them up to speed on the enforcement of that and see what the process would be.
I believe you that it's a good thing, but can you say why it was moved under the health inspector?
Because the health inspector is like a routine, you know, every 6 months or a year, they have to go to every business or restaurant or whatever and
Got it. Okay.
inspect for health code. And then so during that inspection, they would also inspect for the bylaw enforcement.
Got it. It's not about the negative health benefits of
No.
straws.
The process is more, you know.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Baked in, yeah. And I think other towns had the same setup as well. And then just an update on the rest of the plastics that we collected are now sent back to TerraCycle. They're out of DPW. So that's all done. And then as far as the farmer's market TerraCycle, I was thinking, so we talked about maybe doing one of the free programs that TerraCycle offers. And so I was thinking like smaller items so that the boxes wouldn't be filled so quickly. One of the programs I was thinking of was drink pouches. That, you know, it's something that families use like on a regular basis. They, you know, get trashed on a regular basis. So it's not something that like people have to hold on to for a while. It's and it's also a small item. The other idea was toothbrushes and toothpaste, but that's something that's not really used up very quickly. So I was thinking maybe the drink pouches would be a better option.
Isn't another one of their free ones? No, I can't think of it. Use it for floors to pick up dog fur. So yeah, Swiffer pads. Don't they collect those?
Yeah, but I'm not sure how much people use those and how quickly they use them. Oh,
You don't have a dog or cat, do you?
I do have a dog, but I don't use Swiffer. I use
I have a box. It's because they're small and they're compactable. It's taking forever to fill it, but it is a regular creator. Not as much as a juice pouch. I like the juice pouch idea.
Yeah, I just figured like there's lots of families and, you know, I think it's something that people use more regularly and it creates a lot of trash more regularly, so. So yeah, if you guys are, and you know, it's all brands and it's all aluminum and plastic drink pouches, so no limitations there as far as branding or anything. So if you guys think that would be good, I can send away for that. And then get it on the farmer's market's radar to kind of make that announcement for people to save them up.
I think it's a great idea. And then we could also post it to our own social media. So, but the farmer's market does have a more robust marketing than we do.
Yeah, we can do both. Okay, cool. That's all I had for waste. Sean, anything on land use?
Not much. We had some emails trying to figure out timing of meetings. But one person, we had people traveling and sick, so we haven't met yet as a group. But we'll meet before the next meeting now. And then the one other thing is that apparently there's a opening on the Conservation Commission. So I'll find out more about that. But Julian made the suggestion over email. She can't be here this evening, that perhaps somebody from the from ESC might want to apply for that, and that would be a way to increase the coordination between the commission and this committee. So I'll find out more about the process. I think the commission meets twice a month. So and then I think there's review of materials after that. So I might consider applying. I don't know if others might have an interest in that as well, but that was the only update for me.
So
And
there's
then
a limitation of how many like committees or groups you can be on in town, right, Robin?
There are rules being on more than one committee. I don't think there's a limitation, but having just recently sat through that ethics thing again, there's some notifications that need to be done. Sean, in another community, my mother sits on her conservation commission. So if you'd like to talk to someone about behind the scenes what it's like, I'm sure she'd be happy to talk with you. So it's meetings, it's material, and I think as a group they do site visits as well. I know my mother prefers to see things in person to really see what it is as opposed to what's on the drawing, because you miss some things. So, but if you'd like a insider's perspective, I'm happy to share that.
sounds scary. Yes.
Oh, no. No, remember, she volunteered for it and is enjoying it. She is her professional background is a wetland scientist. So this is her being on the other side of the table.
Yeah, and obviously you can talk to Judy too.
And then just to square the circle on what came up, I mean, so if can we invite Judy to come back and talk more about the commission activities and everything? Because I think that'd just be useful information for all of us to understand how those processes are done, since it does connect with so many of the things we care about.
Yeah, I'm gonna add to the next agenda and invite her.
Great.
We don't have any students. We are gonna be soliciting for new student members come September. So if you know of any that may be interested becoming a student member on our committee, we're gonna set up that process in the next month or so.
And is it specifically high school students or any school student?
There was a minimum age that was established by this town.
Yeah. Was that in our
Now that you say that, I recall seeing that somewhere.
15 to 18 is in our appointment mission statement.
And I think it's because that makes it consistent with other student roles.
School building, any updates, Robin?
So I have no firsthand knowledge, but because I've been out of town and out of the loop, but the only, and they're meeting as we speak, so I'll find out after the fact, but in case folks didn't know, they have interviewed and have a preferred construction manager that they are proceeding with the project. So this is the contractor for shorthand. It's Bond Construction.
This for the Voc or for the?
No, for the high school. No, the Voc, they got their construction manager months ago, and it's not the same folks. I'm drawing a blank of who they have. But Bond is a name you may have heard before because they're doing the public safety building and they did the Galvin. So tonight they're having that team get introduced to the permanent building committee. They're supposed to be having a community meeting later this month, like, and for every month for the once a month for the next couple months. There will be public meetings for people to learn more about the project. And I think they're called a PAC, of political action. The residents are gathering as a part of advocacy for the construction if people are interested because of the town vote. So former member of this committee, Susie, has reached out to me. Maybe she's reached out to others, but if you're interested on that effort, Dr. Susie. And Andy Bray, I believe he's another co-chair. So.
Sorry, what is that for?
It's just the group of citizens that are going to advocate to the fellow residents to agree to pay for the project. So the permanent building committee can't for some reason because they're I don't know how it works, but there's a separate committee. So like when the Galvin was being done, there was a group called the Galvanize School. Tom, you may have been part of it, so I'm using the wrong words.
I wasn't part of that.
Okay.
I just moved to town, like not too long, or hadn't been here that long. So.
Okay. Well, anyways, so there's there's town advocates that are going to you'll be seeing info from them and trying to inform people about why the project is needed, the facts on real costs as opposed to displacing any rumors and stuff like that. I think is kind of what their mission is, and to hope for a successful vote of town.
Got it.
So, so that's, and then for the Voc, so last month I reported that they said they were going to have a meeting in August, and I keep waiting to find out more about that. So hopefully Judy can kind of give us some info if they start applying and requesting hearings and so forth.
Have you had any other meetings with the high school architects about sustainability stuff?
Yes, so while I was gone, they had a mechanical meeting. So they told us like, 3 days before who can attend. And I was like, oh, I'm out of the country. So I don't know what came of the systems review. It was just
I
last
was
Wednesday.
on-
There. Were you there, Tom?
Yeah, I was on that.
Okay, so there you go. So Tom knows better.
So out of the systems review, so some of this has to do with the way MSBA does funding. They need to present 3 fuel use scenarios to them. So they were proposing the air source, heat pump, geo heat pump, and then the third one they were asking around like, do we want to put forth a fossil fuel or traditional electric? So there was some of that batted around in terms of that, and then asks of the utility in terms of our current electrical rates, gas rates, those things. And at that point in time, it was also shared with, and it's 2 parts here, is the which is part of my update, is the energy park in terms of incentives and rebates that the utility will be providing. On the VOC, there is a letter of a memorandum of understanding. I believe it has been signed or getting very close to being signed. There was a few back and forths of redlining and things, and the nuts and bolts of it is that the utility and the energy park will take the life safety backup generation that is required for each of those buildings. So that is at each of the schools would have had to build a diesel generator with fuel storage because the utility is building the energy park. The schools will not need those. So there will be no diesel backup generators. And as part of the letter of understanding is that kind of life safety responsibility now falls on the utility, and that will be done at the energy park with battery, natural gas generator that would handle both schools in an emergency. So that's part 1 of that. We will be providing electric vehicle chargers to both schools. The utility will also be providing rooftop solar to both schools at least 250 kW for each school. It looks like we don't have what Wakefield High's roof looks like, so there's a potential for more there. Supplying each school with an incentive of 250K for energy efficiency, and then another incentive around the electric and gas interconnect costs, which the schools would have to pay when they connect into the system. So there is significant cost savings and benefits, and then just an educational partner on that. So that was kind of discussed what we're doing for the VOC. We're also, the utility will also be providing those incentives and rebates and benefits to the high school. And that's all part and parcel to moving that and to an all electric school.
Was there discussion on developing a microgrid?
Yeah, so that's the energy park. So the energy park is
energy park, got it.
Energy park and microgrid are one of the same. So both schools will be participating in the energy park microgrid, which also, because that area now is resilient, we would be eligible. There's potential eligibility for resiliency grants for emergency centers and other things that the feds and even the state puts out for grants. So by having that resiliency built in, and then there's just cost, as part of that discussion for the Wakefield High School was the cost reduction. So as with having the solar as part of the buildings, part of the agreement would be any solar consumed by the building the building gets the benefit of that solar energy, so it reduces their energy bills while the solar is producing. So that's so, and it all works towards the electrification and moving towards the net zero 2050 goals.
Tom, is the other school next to the high school, the school next to the high school, is that still in the picture? And so is the infrastructure being discussed to connect that school to wherever this physical?
It while it is not in the initial plans, it is on the radar and could be easily connected in at any point in time in the future. So the focus are on the 2 high schools, but the energy park will have more than enough capacity to be able to incorporate the Woodville at a future date.
And
then also the energy. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, is there a literal connection that has to be made that would need to be planned ahead, or is it?
So potentially, and one of the reasons why is they don't know the new high school siting and all of that work. They don't know where things are going to be yet. So as those plans solidify, the potential, maybe they trench and put wiring underground at that time, or currently the Woodville is served by overhead circuits, so it's would be potentially easy enough to do that. But it is, in terms of the capacity of the energy park, it would be able to handle taking the Woodville on. And then, the reason being is the Woodville currently, like I said, in a couple of years, they're going to have to change out the HVAC. It's coming to end of life already, so it's already on the 5-year capital roadmap. And the other benefit potentially is one of the things that we learned in looking at this is at the time the Woodville was built, there was no requirement for life safety generation. So Woodville has very basic life safety in terms of just battery powered, exit lighting and that. So it is not a building that would support, if power goes down, it's very basic emergency lighting and that type of usage.
So is there anything that the committee should be aware of that's coming up that we should be?
So there's potentially, and it's not completely finalized. There'll need to be an easement from the town for town land for the park off of Hemlock. That would be brought forth at town meeting. So they're still finalizing that. I'll have more information for next town meeting.
That
Or
what Judy
sorry,
was
for
talking about?
next meeting.
That what Judy was talking about?
No, I think Judy was talking about, where, because they're physically moving. I if I look
Oh,
at,
that was the boat. Sorry, that was
yeah, the boat, is moving into, I think, current forest land.
Yeah.
And it's
But
the new driveway to the Vogue that's been
I think
particularly of concern.
Yeah, I think that goes around back. No, this would be would be off of Hemlock Road somewhere there. I guess the town owns some land as part of Hemlock Road. And so they're kind of finalizing where that would be, but as part of that process, it would have to be transferred over to the utility to build the energy park.
Gotcha.
Outside of that is just, kind of the continued advocacy from, ESC around the energy efficiencies and the importance of, making the high schools all electric to meet the 2050 goals. And that's really the only way that we can do that is to electrify them.
So there shouldn't be any debate then.
One would think.
Okay. Tom, you're next with an update for.
Yeah, I mean, those were kind of my updates on the energy park. The only other updates in terms of the winter energy supply, as I'm sure everyone knows, the global geopolitical landscape is not good, and it is going to severely impact our pricing and of commodity this coming winter. So, and especially if we have real long cold snaps, have an expectation of energy prices being tremendously high this coming winter. So whatever folks can do for energy efficiency and moving to electrification is a benefit in that aspect. And then I think Robin. Oh, go ahead.
Just on that, is the utility going to be ramping up their outreach as far as moving residents towards that?
So they have started a campaign, around, letting folks know, I think they've made a Facebook post. They've posted either coming out or already did in the last bill around, that notification. Folks can sign up. They do the distributed bill, so that they can take and distribute your annual usage over 12 months, but you have to sign up for that I think in December, and it takes effect in January. So there'll be some more outreach around that. So they'll take your bill and for the entire year and divide it by 12 as a payment plan to make it potentially so you don't have that lumpiness of winter and summer. And then, like as Robin had said, the climate bill was signed by Governor Baker today, which is probably a couple hours prior to this. Some things that I think are from a utility standpoint, removing the wood burning biomass plants from the RPS is a good environmental win. So the RPS is the Renewable Portfolio Standard. There's a lot of stuff in the energy efficiency program, so I'm not completely up to speed on all those things and how it will impact us, but I think it will be in the positive and benefit around that. So, and then all buildings over 20,000 square feet will need to report their energy usage to the state as well. I think that was in there.
Yeah.
Tom, going back to seasonal, I've been getting the shave the peak text messages. How'd we do? Did we show that people paid attention and it wasn't?
So, I don't have anything from us, but what I've seen in some of the ISO New England graphs, we've done pretty good with that, and it's been a hard 3 weeks. So there's I've got a couple of
Yeah, email from the Energy Consumers Alliance that there was a bunch of graphs that we ended up below the forecasted energy use.
I don't know if folks can see this. I don't know how to get this on my computer quickly, but I don't know if folks, yeah, no, it's there. So that was so the blue line was the forecasted, the yellow line is the actual. So they were able to flatten that out, and it is highly impactful both from an environmental and a cost perspective. But especially if we shave the one, it's really the 1 hour of the entire year. If we can shave that off, it impacts our rates tremendously because of the way that the demand calculations are done. We essentially pay for that 1 hour throughout the entire year, is spread out across our rates at a very, very high level, simplistic way to look at that.
You said that the utility has more information on the foreseeable rate increase. Is that on their website?
I think they made a post about that. I don't remember. I think I saw something. It might be on their Facebook.
It's not on the website.
Is it not on the website?
Oh, I'm asking, is it?
Oh, I thought I had asked them to do that. I don't know. Let me go look at their site.
And do you know if they're gonna do any other webinars or teaching events related to heat pumps or anything like that?
There was just another one for commercial the other month. They do, one of their goals is to do 3 to 4 of them a year. So there should be some, coming out soon. Generally, they don't like to do them at this time of the year. People are out and about and things. So, once school gets rolling again, I think they'll do another one. But it is definitely something that is on their radar and to do. They are always open to suggestions, and also the board. At this point in time, we should potentially start making suggestions to the board. We will be starting to review the energy efficiency program. We yearly review it and vote on it to start anew on January 1st. So if there's any suggestions or any comments or feedback, either send it to the board via email or comment.
Would it make sense to have that be like an agenda item on an upcoming meeting for us to talk about, so we can give you feedback,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we can pull up, next meeting, we can pull up the current program. And then, I can review it. And then if people have comments or feedback, I can take that, as a liaison. And then, obviously if anyone wants to, as a public comment, can certainly give that input and feedback. On their website, on the left-hand side, it is a Facebook post. It was done 2 weeks ago. There is a post on the scroll bar there.
Okay.
That was all I had, unless there was specific questions.
I don't think so. And last but not least, Anne, the DPW updates.
So we've been busy working on the mattress ban plans for November 1st. Talking to several people, it looks like it's going to be more difficult than we even anticipated. The cost to get rid of a mattress or to recycle a mattress is currently the lowest price we found is $55 for it to be picked up and recycled. Very limited choices. There's a company called Green Mattress. They seem to be the leader in the group, and we're trying to work with them, maybe have them leave a container and maybe take a few dollars off the cost for us. We're also dealing with Republic. Republic bought JRM, and they also have a mattress recycling, but somehow they're in conjunction with Green Mattress. So, yeah.
Same thing.
So we have a few meetings set up. We have a contract from Green Mattress that we're reviewing, and I'll have more to report next time on that. We purchased 25 more Black Earth bins because we only had 2 left from our last 25. So we're up to 406 active participants, Black Earth. We hope our goal would be by next April to have 500.
That's when the rate changes, right?
Yes, correct. And then last but not least, I was wondering about if we'll be doing food composting in the schools. I did talk to Rob Darnell, and he dropped off a case of liners and asked if we'd be doing it. And I said I would check in.
Oh, because he must be cleaning out his house. Those there. Yeah, so that's something that the waste committee is going to be working on. I had started kind of reaching out to the elementary schools about starting that up. this past school year, but then I became focused on the Galvin recycling, so I had to kind of focus in on that and get that done. But I did talk to the principal of Greenwood to be the first school, because they were composting and then they stopped because of COVID. So to basically reinstate their program. And then it was the end of the school year, it was all crazy. So hopefully this coming school year, we can get those discussions going again. And so yeah, if you have liners, I don't know if you want to just hold them at the DPW or I can pick them up, whatever works best.
Yeah, I can hold them. It's fine. I can hold them too whenever you need them.
Okay, great.
And I have a question about the mattresses.
Yeah.
So is the town plan, or does the town need to absorb the cost of mattresses, or is this something that residents have to pay, similar to the current sticker program for oversized things?
So it would be a different program than the current sticker program.
No, but I mean, when you said $55, is that the potential cost for residents to get rid of
Yeah.
it, or does the town have to absorb that under our current budget?
No, potential customer pay.
Gotcha. Thank you. And does the ban work? Sometimes when you buy a mattress that from a store, not online, if they bring a mattress, they have to take a mattress. Do you know if the rules allow that to continue to be the case, or is that not applicable because of things?
No, we're hoping more stores will offer that service and get the people to buy their mattress from someone who will take their old mattress out.
Gotcha.
But that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna recycle it if they take it.
There, yes, yeah, it's the bans for everyone, not just for cities and towns. So yes, they will have to recycle. It cannot go in the waste stream.
Even if it's like a national company.
It can't go into the waste stream after November 1st.
Yeah, I mean, if it's like a national company, they're like taking it to out of state, potentially.
Well, no, our rules usually say that if the business occurs, that's the rules that apply, even if they aren't here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would think since it's a statewide ban, that there'd be more businesses offering this service. But you're saying there's just like one option for the whole state?
So actually, there's a company in Lowell called UTech. So they were the only game in town for a while, but what's happened recently is one of their key people moved to Green Mattress. So they're struggling, and they don't offer pickup. They offer drop off, and they have a limited number that they can recycle. So their production of the recycling is very slow.
I mean, this is gonna be a problem for all towns, right?
Correct. I've been talking to some of the other towns, and they're struggling as we are.
Yeah. Have you talked to the municipal coordinator for Wakefield about it?
Yes, they try to be helpful, but they understand what we're up against also.
Yeah. And did you ever get an answer from the school committee on the Trex bench?
I know, I haven't heard back from them yet.
Okay. Apparently it's their decision. Sorry. Sorry it's taken so long. And have you heard anything about the current program?
For plastics?
Yeah.
So I did talk to Stop and Shop. They want people just to drop them off individually. They don't want to accept a huge bulk drop off from us. So they want us to push people to their location. I assume to get the business, once you drop off your bags, you'd get it. So I haven't found anyone who will take the bulk yet. Shaw's hasn't returned my calls, my emails, my visits. I hoped for them only because they're Wakefield, centrally located, but no success yet.
Well, thanks for trying so hard. I don't know why it's so difficult. And it's too bad Home Depot is.
Yeah.
And
That was-
this isn't
was
something
before.
within farmland capability. Would it be? I don't think they do.
They're not a participating store for the Trex program. Has to be a participating store.
Got it.
And the other part is they're not interested in applying to become a participating, I guess, right?
Farmland? I don't know. I mean, it's.
I know they compost. They have like 1,000 black earth bins behind them. So I at least feel like maybe their heart's in the right place. So, you know, if we've exhausted all of our other options, maybe they would be interested.
Yeah, I don't even think they collect like plastic bags there. So, yeah. I just think.
I just don't know if anyone's ever asked.
Yeah. Any other updates, Anne?
No, that's all from us.
Okay. Thank you. So the next meeting is scheduled for September 8th. Does that work for people? Any objections? All right. Anything else that we haven't discussed? Not on the agenda?
Did we hear back from the farmer's market about a date for Tabla? I was holding October 1st as a maybe date. I didn't know if we had.
Yeah, we're gonna do it then. Yep.
So which October is it?
October 1st this year. Yeah, sorry, I didn't say anything about that. I did hear back and actually I applied and I didn't hear back from my application. So I'm assuming yes for October 1st. And so next meeting, we can talk about what we want to do for that table. Along with, I'll order that TerraCycle box.
And I assume we're not doing anything at the health fair this weekend.
No, I thought it was too short notice and people have been on vacation and stuff, so I didn't think it was doable, but definitely something we can think about for next time. Especially now that we have committees that are working on such things. Okay. And we can adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. Dan,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Tiana,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
Robin.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.